Welcome to the Authentic Man podcast with me, your host, David Chambers. Welcome to this mini episode where I'm going to talk about, I'll get straight into it today, where I'm going to talk about, the 4 types of sex. And, we get different things from different types of sex in different circumstances. And, when I was thinking about this, I was really looking through my own journey of sex and the type of sex I was having. And the type of sex I was having maybe 15 years ago, which was definitely more in the middling categories that I'm going to talk about. And now my sex has really evolved into something more expanded. And you may be listening to this and thinking, oh, there's 4 types of sex. And when you hear some of these, you're going to realize that you're predominantly having sex in one of these areas, right? And you're going to see there's some levels to move up if you choose to. And it will be a new experience to you. And you may tell yourself, oh, I don't need that, I don't want that. But you can feel that there's something inside of you that yearns for something else, something different, something more. So I'm going to start with the first type I've got here is like hookup sex. And this is really, the sort of thing you're having one-night stands, short-term relationships where there's not much emotion and feeling and connection between you. It's more of a physical thing. You think they're hot, they think you're hot. You have some mundane conversation and then you get to the fucking, and it's very physical. It's about what someone does. Do they touch me in the right way? It's a lot about your own sensation and getting what you want, without necessarily considering that much about what does the other person need, what does the other person want, what does their heart desire. It's really paying as much attention to your own experience and walking away like, yep, I got what I needed. It's very much the sort of thing having one-night stands. And if you're having this sort of sex in your long-term relationship, this is very bad news. This is really bad, right? This is very selfish sex. Generally, as a rule of thumb, because of the way that men are conditioned to not feel and not connect, men are more likely to have this sort of sex and want more of this sort of sex, but things are changing. We become more open because it's just emotionally disconnected. I've had a lot of sex like this over the years. And yeah, at the time, sometimes you think that's what it is. This is what sex is. This is all it is. But, as you start to move up the levels in life, you realize there's a lot more to this. It's not just simply about sexual satisfaction and self-serving sex and getting your bodily sensation, having your orgasm or coming. There's more to that. So the next level up I've got here is good sex. And this is where there's emotional engagement. There's a feeling of a level of closeness and comfort and some connection. This might not be deep connection. This is a little bit of connection. It's a sort of sex you can have on the one night stand if you, meet someone and you actually really get talking to them and actually like them as a person. And, or someone this is a sort of sex you often will have if you are engaged in, some sort of friends with benefits or casual sex with a single person or a person where, it's nice. There's some comfort. You feel reassured. You feel that the person cares about you a little bit. They care about your needs to a certain degree. There's some emotional engagement. It might not be great, but there's some there, right? This is the sort of sex that starts to happen in relationships sometimes when it becomes a bit routine or becomes a bit of an obligation. It's the sort of thing where you're still kind of holding back a little bit. Some feelings you maybe not, it's the sort of sex that if you're in a casual kind of sex relationship and you like the person a lot more than they like you, you'll be holding back some of your feelings and emotions. You won't feel completely free in yourself because you're still having these fears and worries and concerns about the other person and whether they like you or not like you. You don't feel completely, let me say, emotionally safe. You feel physically safe, but you don't feel completely emotionally safe because, you can't fully express who you are with this person. And, if you're having this sort of sex and relationship, then also, again, you shouldn't be in this kind of obligation and routine. You can have something deeper than this. You can have something more than this. And this can be good for a period of time, but it also, one becomes a bit resigned, a bit disconnected as well. And you can, it doesn't fulfill the soul. So the next one I've got here for me, is connected sex. This is where, there's an emotional connection. There's a feeling of being able to be open, to be vulnerable, to be playful, to explore each other and yourselves, right? Where there's a safety in that, if someone doesn't want sex in that moment, that's okay. It doesn't mean anything. You don't necessarily experience rejection. You just realize that someone's autonomous and they can make their own choices. There's like a close emotional bond. Like I said, there's lots of trust and safety, and you can communicate your needs and desires and experiences. And, this is passionate. This is pleasurable for both people. There's a care for both people and they're both their needs. And there may even be times where what you will tend to just one person's needs because that's what needs to be done in the moment, or vice versa. Both people feel really like can express themselves and they feel accepted and cared for. This is the sort of thing you ideally want to be having in relationship. This is sort of relationship sex. You can even have this sort of sex if you are having casual sex with someone and you're able to be open and honest and vulnerable with them, right? And you're able to, be really straight with your communication. There's good consent. Like when I say good consent, there is consent. There's a high level of consent, and there's there's a mutual respect as well, right? That's what really comes up there. Now, the last type of sex is something that I've only really started to experience in the last probably 4 or 5 years, if I'm honest, regularly. Before that, it was, sporadic here and there. I didn't really understand how it happened. And it's kind of what I've called kind of soul connected sex. This is where you feel like you are deeply connected to something beyond your body and your emotions. Maybe you feel like you're connected to a higher power. You feel like, I've described it here as almost feeling like you're connected, you're in deep union with the person you're with, but also with all things that are around you. This is where you have sex and you just feel so deeply connected to someone. It goes beyond what you can explain in words and through the body. And this is also, something I come to see is where you start to see sex as not just sex. It's almost like a deep expression of your soul, your being, your, as I would think, like almost like your godlikeness, your godliness that's inside you of creating. You're seeing it as part of, a bigger thing. You're creating energy between the two of you. It's a deeply spiritual experience. It goes beyond just the physical and the mental and the emotional. It's like your whole being is involved in this. Maybe even, you are generating more energy in your body afterwards. It's a sort of thing that, I really get involved in and practice with my tantric rituals and so forth, and the stuff I teach. It's like bringing sex to a whole different level. And if you've never experienced this almost sounds like it's not real, that someone's just made this up. But it's when you've been there, you're like, oh, I visited this town. Wow, what a town that is. It's that sort of thing. During these sorts of soul-connected sex experiences, it's like time passes very differently. Sometimes time will pass very slowly, or all time very quickly. And I think that's a lot down to how you're having sex. There's no rush. There's no goal. You're not trying to get anywhere. You're not trying to get anything from the experience. You're just in it for the deepest expression, the deepest presence of yourself and each other. It's just like being there is the nourishment. It's nourishing to your soul. Just having the experience. There's not the mind trying to strategize and work out what's going to happen next, or where things need to go next, or how things need to be. It's just a pure experience of just being there in the energy of what's happening. It's also the sort of sex that you have where you feel this expanded awareness of yourself and your body and even the world. You might have, kind of psychedelic experiences where you feel out of your body, you feel out of your mind, you feel, like I said before, deeply connected, deeply in union with life, with all that is. Because, you're really taking sex beyond the mind and the body. And, in this sort of state, it's almost like taking, psychedelic drugs, really, really feeling deeply present. It's a just different level of consciousness that you reach. And it's just, it's beautiful to experience. And it takes time to get into, though. So, you might have to do particular rituals so that your mind, calms down, that you leave your day behind, that sort of thing. And, you not commit time, but actually it's not rushed. So there's just like an endless stream of time for you to use. It might be a few hours in this, and it's just being there. It's just really being there without, judgment. It's just like being in what's in the moment, feeling into your partner, feeling into what's in the moment and what's wanted, what's desired, and just expressing that. There's no feedback of like thinking, what do I need to do next? It's just a lot of being. And it's really beautiful, you know, and it's inside some of the work that I do with also where we teach some of our Tantra workshops is we're trying to help couples get to this sort of level of sex where they feel this between them. And it's really beautiful to experience. And if you've never experienced this, then it's really worth reading up and looking into how you can, you know, bring this into your sex life, especially if you're in a relationship, because this is, you know, really, like I said, it's really beautiful. It goes beyond our fears. It goes beyond our fears and worries of ourselves and what, you know, this means and so forth. It's a real losing of one's mind in many ways, in so many ways. So yeah, that's all I really had to say today, you know. Really strive to have deeper levels of sex, even if it's with short-term partners. You know, open up emotionally, express your wants, your needs, your desires. It's so important to do. You get so much more out of it, and you learn so much about yourself and the other person. So I really highly recommend that you do that. So yeah, that's it for today. That's it for today's mini episode. If you want to hear more from me, obviously there's longer episodes if you've not listened to those, but also you can find me on Instagram at @theauthenticman_, or you can shoot me an email, tell me what you thought of this episode, and you can find me at hello@theauthenticman.net. You know, I'm always eager to hear what people think of the episode and what they've learned and what their takeaways are, you know, and if, you know, what it changed in your own relationship with sex or with your partner. But until next week, ciao, ciao.